You won't believe my biggest takeaway from Dry January 2025. I want to share the top three with you, and the third one was the biggest surprise. So tell me, what do you think about it? But the backstory, like many people, I commit or subscribe to the idea of Dry January. I enjoy a glass of wine, I enjoy a social beverage, and like so many of us during the vid year, some of us get more accustomed to consuming alcohol in the house versus doing it when we're out with friends, out for dinner. So it became more of a regular household experience, at least for in my experience. And I'm a health conscious person. I've always been into fitness and taking care of myself and honoring my health and my body. Plus, my history, my family history comes with cancers and all the things. So I research things, I learn about things, and I understand that alcohol is one of the top causes for all kinds of disease, especially cancer. So if I eat well and I exercise, why would I not be more mindful of the amount of ethanol I pour into my body, which alcohol is ethanol? I love Italy. I love wine. Wine is such an integral part of culture in that country. And it's hard to separate the two because it's always good memories and what have you. I love to enjoy a glass of wine or share a bottle of wine with my husband with dinner or go out for dinner with him or friends. You know, it's a social thing for me. And truth be told, it's a stress reliever. Um, it's a habit that you had a hard day, come home, oh, maybe I'll have a glass of wine. It might be a beer or what have you. But you get the idea. So I am preaching what I practice. I'm not saying I'm perfect at any of the things I talk about, but I explore, I research, and I want to share my personal takeaways. Maybe we can start a conversation. You can share with me your thoughts and ideas on consuming or not consuming alcohol. And truth be told, we don't have to go far to find evidence that alcohol is not great with us, for us. I'm not here to preach like you should or should not drink. Like, this is my experience from January because it is a big thing. Dry January is a big thing. We all come into resolutions for the new year, and January comes with the commitment to not consume booze. So this year, I once again recommitted to that practice, and it went really well. It was quite easy. And there are a couple things that helped me with that, but I'll talk about it at the end. And if you want me to share more specifics, just let me know. I will. I want to stay on track with my 3 tips, 3 takeaways. My biggest, let me write it down. My biggest surprising takeaway and some tips on resources that help me. I'll save it till the end. So here's the experience. If you have ever been on a cutback journey or you've been toying with the idea of eliminating alcohol or cutting back on it for whatever reason, and feel free to tell me more if you want to. I'm happy to have the conversation on the subject. I love talking about it. And I'm not talking about the situation where addiction is present and it's like a serious problem, you need help, but I'm talking about people like myself, social drinkers who enjoy booze but understand the addictive tendency of the substance, and the more we have it, the more we want it, and it just decays the life around us. Truth be told, it affects our health, our productivity, our appearance, our work performance, our mood. Like, every aspect really gets affected. Whether you drink a lot or you drink not a lot but regularly, it just changes the baseline of how you perform, how you feel, how you look. Um, for me, with age, it became more noticeable. In my 40s, I feel very differently whether it's 1 glass of wine or 3 glasses of wine. And that was the thing that started me thinking, aging is inevitable if you're lucky enough to age and have the opportunity to get old. And if in early 20s it's such a social lubricant, like alcohol is a part of a cool crowd, it's just a thing that you do. At least in my experience, that was a thing we did. And I'm not talking about the volume, but it's just the concept of having alcohol present in your life. And it's been a part of my life experience, of my human experience, since before I was drinking, right? I saw my parents in a social environment. Uh, Thankfully, in my family and my circle, addiction is not a thing that was really, you know, a cornerstone or a problem. Obviously, I've seen it in other people, but in my immediate circle, it has not been a strong issue. So it was normal. Like alcohol was normalized. We drink in college. We drink, with parents when we became adults. It's just a thing. But the older I get, the more I realize it's like maybe it's not amazing. Maybe it's not helping my performance, and not necessarily the output, the productivity, and all that good stuff. But as you age, you start to see the changes in your body, in your memory, in your focus. And it's like, why am I pouring liquid poison on it to make it worse? When I can be optimizing performance, I can be thriving in this decade. Like, why? It feels like it's not helping. So that's where like the dialogue with myself and like the a little bit of a struggle came from, because I realized logically I don't need alcohol in my life. I'm no longer a young woman who is insecure in social situations and need a glass to relax. No, I feel good wherever I go. I feel confident in a crowd. Yes, of course, there was some social anxiety in new groups, and like next week I'm going to a big marketing conference by myself, and I'm gonna be meeting people. And alcohol makes it easier in a social situation. You just relax, your brain shuts off. Like, yeah, it's easier to talk to people, make friends. Certain conversations that are not like not enjoyable become more tolerable. So anyway, though I see where alcohol is beneficial socially, but the outcome for health is just not so good. And the more you read, and if you like start to tune into that concept, you will see those things pop up. So I've been on this personal, I wouldn't call it a struggle, but like questioning my relationship with alcohol, understanding it addicting tendencies, and it's like, do I need it? And for me, the hardest part has been in social situations. Again, we have part of my relationship with my significant others as like we have a significant other. We have those memories of traveling and trying wine in Italy, you know, getting to the airport and celebrating vacation and like all that stuff. It's like all good memories. And for me, that was a big part. It's like, if I take that away, is it going to affect our experiences? My friends, uh, girls' weekends, like girls' trips. Like, we love wine. It's surrounded, the memories and the activities are around drinking champagne and just having a good old time with that. So, anyway, but the more I played with it, it's like, am I going to miss out? Am I going to feel awkward? Am I going to be boring? Is it going to be boring for me? Those are all the questions. And it's like, if you have your reasons and your questions, you tell me. I'd love to hear your input on that. Because in my circle, I don't have a lot of people in my immediate circle who are on the same journey or have the same debates with themselves. So it's nice to have somebody to talk to about it. So tell me if that resonates at all. So I committed to dry January, and I'm a all or nothing person, and I'm working on that, working with my therapist on that. Finding gray area, because I tend to be all black or all white, all or nothing. I either relax and nobody tells me if I want a glass of wine on Wednesday, I'm gonna have one, or I'm like not having anything, not drinking at all, like it's extremes. So I decided to like give myself a little bit of space and grace, so I committed to dry month. But it's like if something comes in where I want to experiment and try it on again, I will let myself. So there were two instances in 31 days that I had a beverage, an alcoholic beverage, but I still feel like I completed dry January successful. And here's why. One of the experiences was going out for dinner. We had a company, we went out to our favorite restaurant. Everybody at the table ordered a glass of wine, but myself, I very nonchalantly, without attracting any attention, ordered myself a mocktail, which I love. that restaurants more and more adding fancy non-alcoholic beverages, so you still feel like you have that glass and that experience of cheering with a table, but it doesn't come with all the side effects, negative side effects of alcohol. So I enjoyed a glass of NA cocktail, mocktail, and then as we're consuming our dinner, and it's Italian night, and I love Italian food, and it's this built-in correlation with Italian wine, I said, okay, I'm gonna have a glass of wine. All this built up, and seeing wine at the table, and sniffing it for just aroma from from the other guests who were drinking wine, I missed it, and I decided I'm gonna have it. By then, so we're like 2/3 on the way into dinner. I get my glass of wine, I taste it, and it does not taste all that good. So the memory of it was better than actually having it. And that was one takeaway. The memories we create, for one, we alter those memories in our brains, and we hyper focus on the good and we forget the bad, right? So the I sound like such a wino, but like the time you take a first sip, the taste, the aroma of the wine, the way it affects your blend of food and wine, is like all this deliciousness is how I remembered. And then I tasted, I'm like, I don't know if it was worth it. So I was like, okay, one and done, not worth it, didn't need it. I thought I did, but I didn't. So I go through this whole dinner without more alcohol, and we're having great conversation, and food is amazing, and the whole experience is wonderful, and I am enjoying the company without being like, oh my god, get me out of here, oh my god, get me another drink. None of that. So it's like it was truly engaging, present experience. It was wonderful. So I walk away feeling good. It's like, okay, now I check mark, I can go out for dinner and not feel like I'm missing out. It was more in my head. Nobody there forced me to have it. Nobody asked me twice. So that was one good experience. And the other one was at home. I'm looking at my notes. At home, we enjoy a cheese board, a bottle of wine with a movie, or just a good conversation at the kitchen counter. So that's our thing, right? So 3 weeks into January, I'm like, I miss that. So we're having a weekend at home, and I'm like, okay, it was my idea. Nobody asked me, nobody forced me. I was like, you know what, let's do this. And we're both good. My spouse is good enough, good in that regard that he's never gonna force something he's doing on me, and vice versa. So in the past, if I feel like having a glass of wine and he doesn't, I'm never gonna force him. I'll offer, but he doesn't have to say yes. And same goes the other way. So I'm feeling this cheese board night, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna open a bottle of wine. If you want in, you go for it. If not, I'll just, enjoy a glass. So I pour myself a glass of wine, and we're having a nice time, watching a movie, all this great, relaxed experience. And I'm realizing it's like, I remember it feeling different. I remember this being better. And if I take away this wine, the cheese and the snack is still great. The movie is still awesome. The company is still amazing. So it's like, do I really need it? And is it really that glue that I feel like if I remove it, I'm going to miss something in my life? So first tip, my first takeaway, and first tip for myself, it gets easier. And the more you're aware of it, and the more you think about it and ask yourself, it's like, do I really need it? Was it really that much better with it or without it? I started questioning myself more on those things. And giving into having alcohol actually helped me with this experience. Oh, I gave away my third tip. Giving. There was no water now. But giving in was actually the winning pivotal moment, by me telling myself, you can have it if you want it, you can try it, because then it wasn't that forbidden fruit. When people stick to a diet or exercise or say no to alcohol, not an exception, and if you do, you reset your start point. But if you say, I am committed to this experiment of 30 days with no alcohol, however, if I need an exception, I'm gonna take an exception. And it's not like a cop out because I'm like, oh, it was a girls' night, so I just had to. No, it was a very conscious decision to be like, do I or do I not need it? And what's going to happen? And I think I'm missing out, but if I have it, is it going to fill the void? And it was understanding that no, I can do this without the alcohol. The memories are great, the patterns are established, but it doesn't have to be that way. So first takeaway was it's getting easier because I've done this multiple times, like taking a complete break from alcohol and resetting. Um, my my other tip was I switched my order. Sorry, spoiler alert, give away my third tip. But my other takeaway for myself was I'm still not ready to give it up completely. And it was also so helpful. And I guess I said my biggest takeaways, all three takeaways were pretty big. The idea that I'm not going to quit completely or tell myself I'm ready to completely eliminate the alcohol, even though that's my inclining and that's where I'm going for. But I don't want to do it just because I decided to do it. I want to decide to do it and get to the point like I want to keep experiencing things with and without alcohol. I want to keep feeling better because let me tell you, not drinking, and I also stepped up my fitness game, I stepped up my nutritional game, I minimized the distraction, I've been really dialed in on a lot of things, and it's like, I don't need it. I'm gonna keep going, there are more takeaways. The one thing that happens when you quit alcohol for whatever length of time, you stop experiencing high highs and low lows. Life becomes a little boring. And it's chemical part of the brain, like not getting those dopamine hits from the booze and then coming off that. And it sounds like almost like drugs, right? So, but it's the same effect. Drugs and alcohol have the same effect, and alcohol is a drug. For some reason, it's in its own category, but it affects the brain in a similar way. Like harder drugs never experience that, so just going off my knowledge. But with alcohol, when you drink, it hits your brain, so it shuts off your uh, decision making area. So that's why people say things they say, do things they do, and regret later, right? So it shuts off a part of your brain, but it also hits up your dopamine receptors, and that lights up, and that's why you feel happy and elated at first. And then, of course, all the negative effects trickle in. So when you take that away, you stop feeling those high highs, but you also stop feeling those low lows. And it's a great thing because you're kind of always in the middle. Your mood is pretty good. You're in a pretty, pretty good state. You're not like amazingly thrilled and happy to be alive, but you're also not at the bottom of, depression pool where you're thinking about, is it all worth it here? So it's good, but it's also bad because it becomes kind of boring. Everything becomes very consistent. And if you are used to those highs and lows, and you are used to inducing them with alcohol in addition to other life's ups and downs, you take that all away, it's just very monotone. Life becomes very monotone. And it's okay. Like, boring is okay. Boring is stable. Boring is predictable. Boring is secure. I used to think like unless it's all up or all down, it's like why even bother living? And I'm talking about life experience in general. Alcohol experience just mimics it. But the more you work on yourself, the more you heal your traumas or past experiences, overcome your limiting beliefs and things that prevent us to living a full out life, you understand that consistency is good. A little boring is good. It's safe, it's predictable, it is good for your nervous system, for your body, for your brain. So that was an interesting piece too. Sorry, my 3 tips were all over, plus some bonuses. But I want to encourage you. If you are wrestling your relationship with alcohol, try removing it. Not like forever, I'll never drink again. Many of us, I'm sure, had experienced drink too much, got up in the morning, I will never drink again till next occasion, right? And I'm trying to be careful and aware here that I am not describing or referring in any way to addiction. Addiction is a different situation. And yes, all addicts started somewhere light with a drink or two or three or five. That's not where we're going. So I hope you don't take that out of context. And the reason I keep saying that, because those patterns that we experience normally consuming, socially consuming alcohols, all those things just get amplified in an addictive setting. And I understand that I'm not taking it lightly, but it's just not my experience. So that's not where I am going with this. But if you are a social and occasional drinker and you still think it's like, do I need it? Am I drinking too much? Would it be better if I drank less? What if I stopped completely? What would it mean about me? What would people think? If any of those questions are circling in your mind, you are questioning your connection to alcohol and how it affects you. And yes, there are good sides and there are, ugly sides to that consumption as well. And as we get older, like anything that hurts our health, like why do it? Why do it? If you can avoid it and it's not going to take away from your life, because for me it was like, is it going to take away from my life? And more and more I feel like it won't. The social things I still have to work through. A couple of other things like travel things I have to work through. I have a trip coming up, so we'll see how that holds up in the airports. Being alone, all those things. Solo, not alone, being solo, traveling solo. So it does get easier the more you practice. You realize you didn't really even need it. And at the end of the dry period, you might decide you're still not ready to completely quit. But if you don't put that much pressure when you finish your experiment, you don't need to go on a binge or be like, okay, gloves are off, we can go hard again. So what happened to me after the month finished, again, there was no like hard stop date. A couple days into February, I was like, okay, let's have a beverage. And I tried it again. I'm like, it's just not even worth it. So I just stopped and put it away. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna continue. And if I have an urge or desire or a situation presents itself where I am willing to take in more alcohol, I'll consider it. I'm not saying I'm gonna do it, but I'm also not saying I won't do it. So giving myself that like exit strategy and having a yes and no and like not having to make the decision now, I still get the opportunity to think about it, feels better to me. Keep looking at my notes. I gotta put them away so I'm not distracted from the camera. But I did promise some tools for you. So a big help this round for me was Reframe app. Not sponsored. I wish they sponsored me because I'd love to give you some code to it. It had a free trial, I think for 30 days or so, and I started back in December before the actual January start. I ended up subscribing for the year for the app. Not sure what the cost is, but it didn't seem outrageously high for this app. On a daily basis, they give you, you can assign you time when you check in, so I usually did it in the evening. You get an article or a fact or some sort of knowledge piece on the subject of alcohol relationship with stress, health, like all those things. And it has check-in so you can track your consumption, you can set your goals. And the goal of the Reframe app is to help you cut back. So they're calling it Cutback Journey. And it has a good community there. And you read notes from people. You can tell some people are truly struggling and have addictive addiction situations. Some people are just over consuming. And it's interesting to see where you're at on that scale. And again, it's not a comparison. Everybody has their own journey. It's not, oh, I'm better because I only have 3 glasses and you have 7. So, it's none of that. But it's nice to have a community to turn to. Because a couple times during the month when it did feel challenging, the day was really stressful, and that default mechanism or that pattern is like, if I get home, when I get home, I can have a glass of wine. That's my reward for the stressful day. And then I turn, it's like, well, that's not helpful. That's not going to reduce stress. That's not going to be rejuvenating. It's going to shut off a part of my brain for a portion of the evening. But, it's like, are we avoiding or are we solving for a solution here? But I felt the urge to fall into that pattern. So I turned to the community thread and just read it. One day I just shared, I'm feeling that, the desire to have an alcoholic beverage. And it's interesting to see what people say, and it's just interesting to have a person who is outside of your immediate circle that you can share with. Like, you don't have to have your name on it, you're anonymous, but there is community of people on the same journey, so it doesn't feel so alone, for one. And those daily lessons always seem to fall on the subject that I was working through or struggling with, like stress. One day, work was busy and stressful, and I'm like, oh, I just want a glass of wine. And then it's like, it is a pattern. Then I open my app and it's like, oh, stress, and that's how that affects our consumption. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not the only one. So that was very helpful. Um, Being very mindful was really helpful. So that was like, is mindfulness an actual tool? It is. Asking yourself questions and finding your own answers to it, taking a beat and taking a breath before you make a decision, observing and naming your emotions. That was very helpful. And another tool, I did pick up this tool from the app, but I've heard about it in therapy, I've seen it on the internet, but there was an abbreviation, hungry, lonely, tired, bored. Hungry. I think it was like, hold up, but it's hungry, lonely, tired, bored. I'm sorry, I should have been more prepared with abbreviation, but that's basically it. If you feel the urge or craving, and this can apply to alcohol consumption, it can apply to sugar. If you're struggling with sugar, I feel like all the tools are actually the same. I thankfully don't have to wrestle sugar cravings or addictive behaviors there anymore. But there was a phase where I was very obsessed with food. I wasn't obsessed with alcohol, but we're talking years back. But sugar cravings, like sugar buzz, was a real thing. And alcohol, same reactions to the brain, I guess, gives us pleasure in some sort of form and gets the brain to produce the happy hormones. So, are you hungry? Are you lonely? Are you bored? Are you tired? Hold. Hungry? Yeah, hold. Lonely, tired. Oh, something. But those are the things. Are you tired? Get some rest. Don't drink. Are you bored? Find something to do, and drinking isn't it. Hungry? Eat. Tired? Bored? Alone. So, like, find a solution that's not at the bottom of the bottle. So that was a really helpful tool. And I think the fact that when you feel the distress, you might be just upset or feel low. Those might be 4 good questions to ask. If you have a craving for overspending, over-consuming alcohol or sugar, like those, addictive patterns, those reactive patterns, when you're trying to find a fix, what are you fixing? Like, find out, is it something you can, just a baseline needs? Hungry, get some rest. Tired, get some rest. Hungry, get some food. Lonely, find community, call a friend, text somebody, find the connection piece. That was very, very helpful. And I found that checking in with myself was like, am I really craving a glass of wine, or am I just stressed? I'm just stressed. How else can I manage my stress? Go for a walk, take a breath, just realize that stress will pass. You don't have to pour over on it. Anyway, super fun, super interesting experience. I truly love working on self-improvement, personal development, personal growth, understanding myself. It helps me understand myself better. It helps me understand others better. And we all want a sense of progress, right? That's what actually makes us happy, having a direction, going towards something, not necessarily achieving whatever the next thing, but being on the trajectory. And I found that the journey of self-improvement and personal growth, it just never ends. So it's like built-in reassurance that you will always have some level of happiness and satisfaction if you keep going towards a better version of you. Not you're bad, you're good. You're good as you are. I'm good as I am. Our worth is built in. Apparently I'm learning that. It's not determined by what we do, how we are. It's like there is an innate beautiful thing of being worthy because you are. It's part of human condition. But we can improve. for our own sake, for sake of people around us, for overcoming and ending generational trauma, things that are not amazing that have been passed through generations, assuring better future for our posterity. I